So as we all think that you have seen many slides during the last few days before, we'll only have a few informational ones as an inspiration. After that, the three guys are going to kick in with lots of discussion about the details, I guess. So fire away, Martin.
Okay, so maybe I start. Haven't been talking for at least 10 or 15 minutes. So we had a lot of talk about that covered in my keynote, the IT model and the API economy thing. So it's probably a little bit about uniting two things, which are on one hand were initially very much driven by Greg, and on the other hand, so when it comes to the API economy, on the other hand, very much driven by me when it comes to the IT model thing. And I think there are a lot of things which overlap, and I just want to start with a very short presentation before we start into the discussion with Kim in addition. So you all have seen this picture of the IT paradigm, the one with the typo in. And so do you find the typo? And it's really about how can I provide business services by integrating a lot of different services, by really making the best out of on-premise and cloud use. And this middle layer around services, I think, is the important point where it's about a lot of things around services, but one very important point is the service orchestration thing. And the service orchestration thing really is around tailoring and combining and so on services, making more out of this. So that's really this part where I would say the API economy sorts really come in and play a very vital role. So this idea of saying, okay, I don't have a big fat SaaS app only, but I'm able to consume that app and use the parts I want or integrate it with whatever I have, on-premise, off-premise, and so on. I think that's really the point. I've touched this slide quite a few times. And so that's really the starting point for this. And yeah, I think that's one of the terms. Maybe Greg wants to say some words around, using microphone number 3, by the way, before we go forward.
Yeah, this is the core thesis of the API economy document that we published a few months ago, and that organizations, we believe, are moving into a position, if they're not baking their core competence into an open API, that they're not in the game, or it's an economic imperative that they be doing that. Now, there's a lot of implications in this statement that bold. It means that organizations are becoming SaaS providers, and that means that they have to figure out how to make and build and maintain software. What happens when 20 million hits, or if it went into the billions of hits like some organizations have had. So we've got a lot of issues about security and how to protect the data, legal matters, who owns the data, is it in the cloud or is it still on the premise? And I love that we have Kim here a lot here today, because he's been thinking about those issues in a lot of depth for Microsoft, and we've been talking about it for many years, so I'm excited to hear what he's going to say.
And I think that there are 2 points which are very important around this. You know, you might always say, why should an organization become, or an enterprise should become sort of on whatever cloud or SaaS provider? I think there are 2 points. If you look at the IT paradigm, it's about on-premise IT acting like they are one. The other thing is, I've used the term identity explosion in my keynote, I think. And I think that's the other thing. You know, we're not dealing only with this, let's say, 28. So I had a number just recently of a customer, and they have 28,000 employees and 4.5 million customers to deal with. So the employees are far less than 1%. And I think that's really the point you have to look at. So unveiling things, making them more open, is important because you have to deal with your customers. So it's an economic imperative. And that just leads to another slide. I just want to quickly look look at it, it's really the point I've been asked also, and you probably as well, why it is relevant for an enterprise. I think it's relevant for everyone. It's relevant for SaaS providers because the big fat SaaS apps are not sufficient. It's relevant for other types of cloud providers, even if it's more maybe about the administrative side. It's relevant for the on-premise IT providers because they have to act like a cloud, for the end-user organizations because they're the consumer number one, for the individuals because they might rely on those, maybe based on the future life management platform. So there are a lot of things in there, and Fulop later on will go much deeper into the consumer side of the things in his presentation. But I think that's a lot of things, and the thing I really want to show is only the last slide, because I had a question yesterday on a panel. I think we have been there in both, and we had a question on someone asked, why should I believe in this? You know, Corba failed, SOAP is not growing, or SOA overall is not growing that massively, so why should it happen? And I think that's the answer. And right now I think maybe it's really latest time to include Kim into our discussion and let him talk a little bit, because I think he's scharren with the Füße. He's really waiting. Oh, when can I start talking? So Kim, you know, as being historically working for a company which has been historically been a provider of on-premise solutions, what is your view on that?
You mean around the API economy? And yeah, it's funny, you know, I'm just an engineer, and you know, I sort of came into this through the RESTful programming model, which I thought was brilliant, because I always like anything that is a step simpler is good. And so I really, you know, understood the technology of it, but I didn't get the message. You know, I didn't actually, and I knew that Microsoft had to do it because it was simpler. Anything that is simpler, you have to do. But I didn't get the message. The message is that actually there's this message of there being a new economy, and you know, basically, so it was really Craig who enlightened me on that. And I mean, I just think it's so incredibly true. All of our customers will be offering their services through this mechanism in a new economy. So I have to adapt to it in several ways. One is, you know, everything we do has to, you know, our software has been very well layered in the sense that, you know, over the years we learned, gee, your UI has to be on top of a different layer than your back-end services and so on. And so we actually have, you know, we did things like PowerShell, which surfaced all of the functionality in a very simple mechanism. And so really all of that stuff has to be then now given RESTful heads so that it can all be and it's not really a hard, it's just, you know, it's not hard from a theoretical point of view. It's all doable. So that's a question of making everything we do like that. For example, the directory, the cloud directory, has to be accessible in precisely this way. So all of the configuration, everything about identity management has to be available through this type of API.
So it's in fact moving away from we are provider SaaS, IaaS, and different levels. So it's really about saying, okay, the message you're telling is, yes, we are moving forward from providing one, let's say, more or less monolithic thing towards having all the options a customer might need.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, I think that the main point, my big aha this year was the real essence of the cloud economy is specialization. It's not we can run our machines in a bigger refrigerator, which was sort of the original message that we were given, you know, by the cloud thinkers. It's really that the whole economy is going to be distributed and specialized and in a way that the API economy facilitates. So it's like, which came first, the cloud or the API economy? That's what future parents will, when they want to amuse their children, they'll say, which came first, the cloud or the API economy? Because they're so tightly and intricately bound.
It is. I can't emphasize the significance of what Kim has said, that they're going to take the cloud ADS and make it accessible through RESTful APIs to any application from anyone that wants to consume and use that directory as an element in their programming. That's such a shift from the thinking of any vendor in the past, or any notion, and the ability for that to fuel the economy, like he said, is huge. The implication of that is really exciting.
Yeah, and I think that what you just said, Kim, around it allows really to specialize, and I think that's really where, if you take together these things, the cloud, and really the cloud as a specialization thing. If you take the API economy and the big word of industrialization of IT, and I think that's really where these things come together, because if you look at the industrialization in real world some very, very long time ago, it was also a movement forward towards specialization and towards the ability to interoperate. So specializing without having the ability to then integrate back things which came from different specialized providers didn't work. And so it's really about moving forward towards an approach which supports doing this. And I think that's really where these things come in. And so from that perspective, it really has a very, very strong logic, because when we are not able to integrate, we don't need to specialize at the end of the day, and it's just at best half the way gone. And so I think that's a very important point from that perspective, that we need to move forward in that direction. And I think that's really, I think the point that I'm really honestly still thinking a lot about is what will be the provider role of the consumer in the future. But I think we have some answers in our life management platform report, and I think really this ability for him to provide some things in a way which is exposed probably by something which allows them to access this information in a very privacy and security related way will be a part of the answer, which is just starting to answer to a question that is just starting to become clear, I would say.
A personal cloud, as it were.
Yes, but I don't like the term personal cloud, because I think it's overstressing the cloud paradigm, and maybe it's too cloudy.
Well, I'll tell you, around the specialization, a few weeks ago, I was at this conference, and I haven't really spoken about any of the stuff I spoke about here in my keynote to anyone. It's really just one other group of people, which was this conference of people in the aeronautical and defense industry, if you can believe it. Very, very high level people. And I was giving them this explanation of the cloud is about specialization, as you were saying. And all of a sudden I realized that everybody in the room except me understood specialization. Because, they're in the aeronautics industry, and you have one guy who produces some piece of an engine, and another guy who produces another piece, and everybody's specialized, and like, it's just the software industry where we kind of had this monolithic, we didn't make it into after the Industrial Revolution yet.
Yeah. We didn't make it.
It's just happening now. That's what this is.
And hopefully we do it a little faster than the real world did. So otherwise it will be 2,200 something until we're gone that way.
And there's a couple other things I think besides specialization that this enables. One is scalability, and the other is change management. One of the most frustrating things in IT is the pace that IT is able to embrace the need for change.
Yeah. IT is incredibly inagile, and
the business, keep it the same.
Yeah, the business is asking for agility, and in fact, I think when we are looking at I think I had this discussion during this day sometimes. Say, oh, that's so much integration and things to do. I think the point is it's getting easier, and if you build the right organization, if you build the right model, that's what we've described, and if you enable these things, then you will become better able to do this. And I think the point is, it's a little bit about live or it's called live or let die or something like this, or the other way around. So I think the point is, either you do it as IT, or you will be replaced. At the end of the day, if you're not agile enough, then business will bypass you, and that's what a cloud enables. So to become the better, and it's better to do it structured in an organization, what we describe in our paradigm, and that means you have to go that path down somewhere or another. I think there will be a lot of learnings around this over time, so we're really in the early stages, but I think it's becoming more and more consistent, and that's really what businesses want, agility, because they have changing requirements, and that's not going slower than it has been the last years. It will become faster and faster, I think, in a globalized economy, and that's really what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah, I sort of see it as, IT expands to consume the budget allocated to it, and well, no, but it expands to consume the budget allocated to it, and that will continue. It's just that the economy itself, because things will become, the IT component will become more and more central to the nature of what an enterprise is through the API economy. And so what's interesting, right now a lot of IT is spent doing things that are not core to the essence of the corporation. A lot of the IT is just spent, sweeping the floor and, mowing the lawn, as opposed to doing the actual thingness of that enterprise. And so I think that's what's going to happen through the cloud. All the mowing, all the lawn mowing and so on will be done in the cloud by all of these other specialized services. And the enterprise can take its IT resources and use that to be itself.
Yeah, I think we are all on the same line here. I think we have to...
We don't have an argument. This is a problem for a panel, right?
Yeah. No, I think we anyway have to move to the next presentation, which is Philip. So I ask Sebastian to come back to the stage, because he was in so much discussion probably around live management platforms and other things, which is good, by the way. I also hope that some people were heavily twittering right now, because I think we had some very nice bold statements there, and if they don't tweet them, we will forget them again. So that would be very helpful to have them tweeted.
You mean everything that is tweeted is remembered?
Hand over to Sebastian to move forward in our agenda, otherwise we
absolutely
either run out of arguments, or we will spend the entire hour and a little bit more without Philip having his presentation.